All right, we're sitting out here at the Country Club of Birmingham with the 2019 Golf Professional of the Year, Eric Eshleman. And
Brett, thank you.
More than that, a dear friend, colleague, mentor to me, guidance. So you're going to hear some ambient background noise, but it's kind of cool because if you understand, if you're not watching it on YouTube, make sure you check us out on our YouTube channel because we're at a beautiful facility. So, Eric, thanks for being here.
You bet. Happy. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's always nice to put people in a little bit of a hot seat, right?
That's right. Here we go.
Not going to do that. But talk to me about your philosophy about what led you. I mean, I always say that if they were to put a PGA magazine out and say, what is the role model for a PGA professional, it's always you. And I've said that for many years. What is it that being at a facility like this, it's a blue blood facility. What I mean by that is it's a place that's been here. It is the mark of Birmingham, you guys in Shoal Creek. What is your philosophy of leading, developing professionals and the membership and all the other stuff that led you to this award?
Yeah, so this is the dream platform for me, first of all. Let's never lose the fact that this is a 36-hole, family-driven golf club that's been here since 1898. High priority on the family experience, which leads to a push for having the best junior program in the country.
Which, real quick, I'm going to interrupt you, which that wouldn't normally relate to a top 100 course. Usually you'd see a place like this and it would be stuffy.
Yeah.
It's opposite.
Yeah, we've always taken pride. When I worked at the RTJ Trail and taught a lot of members out here, I thought, boy, Birmingham Country Club must be a nice place, but I bet it's a little stuffy. And once I started spending time, once I got hired as director of instruction, it's just the opposite. These are the nicest people in the world. They don't have to prove anything to anybody. And when they get out here, this is their second home. All of them live within, 90% of them live within 2 miles of this club. So this is their daily lunch, their card game after work, their place to play golf, their place to practice at this beautiful practice facility. So this is their home, and I get to be kind of part of their home.
Let's talk about the junior program for a minute, because I went to a local club and I kind of got in a little bit of trouble because I tweeted something. And Blanton over at Vestavia Hills Country Club,
Good friend.
Yeah, good friend of yours, and taking your guidance, he asked me to come in and speak to the junior championship. Mm-hmm. And I got to be honest, I thought I was going to be in like the men's grill. So I went up there and I get there and everybody's in suit and ties. Mm-hmm. Everybody's dressed to the nines. There were over 100 juniors rocking chicken fingers, rocking a Sunday bar. Parents were having their drinks, and they had a guest speaker, and they had the board up there. And it made me think of you guys, because Birmingham Country Club, or Country Club of Birmingham, you guys have your junior program, and you have a massive following. And I look at other clubs, and they don't.
Yeah.
Why do we fail with that in clubs so much?
You know, we went through about a 20-year vacuum where we weren't teaching juniors at all. So we've come out with some new fun programs, PGA Junior League, inter-club matches, all those things. And then just the fact that there's a high priority now on junior golf. I've been teaching juniors. I was in charge of junior golf at Grand Cypress when I was 23, and now I'm 50, and I'm still in charge of junior golf. So I've brought that.
It's not your first assistant whose first job out of the gate.
No. Yeah. We take it from the top down. Now I've got a great staff, great assistant professionals that help me run this program. But the design and that dinner that you went to, I think that recipe's kind of cut from out here to put them in coat and ties.
100%.
Our little girls put on their sundresses and come to the banquet. And we had this year we had 213 kids playing our junior club championship. So and that's why the picture's on the wall with them.
But that's why clubs wonder why they can't get membership. Mm-hmm. If I've always said this, and this is any business, right? And that's why I want you on this, is to talk beyond the golf industry. But people who are business leaders, who are coaches, look at the places where other people struggle to succeed and dominate that market. You guys have such a huge following. As a result, Mountain Brook High School has a tremendous golf program. Vestavia Hills, tremendous golf program, and so on, because of the feeders of here out into that. Mm-hmm. Y'all aren't begging to get juniors to play.
No, it's part of our fun. It's part of our culture. And our finance chairman, who's president of a bank here, came to me years ago and said, grow the junior program, and if you hear anything different, you let me know. But grow it and don't stop growing it, because they're the future of our club. We feel like 80% of that junior program will want to be members at this club one day. So, member recruiting is not real hard out here, because we're bringing up a family full of kids, or a huge pyramid full of kids that are going to want to grow up. And some, a lot of them go on to play college golf. It's great. But we're going to have a ton, like our club championship now has taken on a whole new life again. Club championships are things that are dying around the country.
Yeah.
Ours is on the way up, because all these kids are now 20, mid-20s, upper 20s. They go out and play in the state tournaments, and now they're back here fighting for the club championship.
What do you look at if you were to look at the PGA of America right now? What should be the initiatives? I'm not saying it's that they're not doing the right thing. I'm just saying if you were president for a 5-year term or something, what would you do to grow the game? Because we hear the stats about the game is down, and I think it's more of a base rate. I mean, I think it's just the fact that it is what it is. You got people who are distracted. What would you suggest?
Well, I don't think the game's down. I think we've leveled out the last couple of years, so staying level's winning in my book with our golfers. And, kids as juniors is a huge part of it. Years and years ago, we had caddy programs. So caddies all became, we're talking 40, 50, 60, 80, almost 100 years ago when we had caddies. Caddies wanted to become golfers. They wanted to become members of the club. So caddying brought on a whole influx of golfers. If we're not teaching juniors, we're not bringing in that massive influx of golfers. So we have got to teach kids. We've got to teach kids where they go through the good shots and they go through the bad shots, and then they become single-digit handicaps because of it, and they love playing golf. I always say nobody calls each other on a Saturday morning. No two guys call each other on a Saturday morning and say, hey, grab your helmet, let's go tackle each other a few times.
Right.
They call each other and make a tee time. So if we're not teaching juniors, we're missing the boat. And, that there's 3 things that's always said about golf. It's too hard, it costs too much money, and it takes too long. Well, those 3 excuses have been around as long as the game has been around, and we have tens of millions of golfers that play the game, and I'm so tired of those excuses, it's unbelievable. Those are 3 of the things that make golf so special.
Yeah, because you're out and separated. When you see your members out here and they're struggling with their game, you see any common trends?
Yeah, I mean, if we're getting, that would be a little bit going into a teaching philosophy type thing, but yeah, I believe that there's certain fundamentals that you have to set up right to it. You got to grip it right. You got to have a consistent posture, a consistent ball position, a consistent alignment. And if you do those things before you ever hit it, you'll probably become a pretty good golfer. Your swing will shape to the right fundamentals prior to hitting it. If you don't have those things, what I see, people say, I want to be more consistent, but they're completely inconsistent in the things that you do before you hit a golf shot. And then they're also inconsistent in the way they practice, in the way they play, inconsistent in their expectations. So if I call it from trunk to the tee, if you show up on Saturday mornings and you just come from the office and it's the trunk to the tee Saturday morning, you should match your expectations to that level of golf. If you come out on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday nights after work and practice and work on your fundamentals and get good quality golf instruction from a PGA professional, then you should match your expectations to that and you should improve.
So as a teacher then, and matching that, it goes back to kind of understanding what your player wants. But that's difficult because a lot of times teachers are trying to match kind of a pleasure so that the guy or girl comes back, right? So how do you level set that for your members?
Yeah, so ultimately your players have to get better. So if they're looking for that experience where it's just a pat on the back and boy, I felt good, but then I went out and shot 100, you've got to be fundamentally sound in the way you teach and the approach you go about making people better. So if I get somebody who gets it out of the bunker now for the first time, or they minimize their 3 putts, or they start hitting their driver 20 yards further, or they hit their irons crispy enough now that they hit more greens in regulation, now I've hooked them. Okay, so then if we have a pleasant kind of tee-side experience and we're friends and we have a relationship, we teach over 2,400 lessons a year out here at the club. Well, people don't go spend their money or their time with somebody they don't like.
Yeah.
So I feel like we do those first things that I mentioned, and then we have a pleasant tee-side manner where you enjoy coming out and taking a lesson and getting better at golf.
How often do you go on the course with them?
Not enough. I would sure like to go more. There's time constraints there.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had to, if I was dialing back the clock and talking to a 25-year-old teaching professional, I would say get out on that golf course. Get off this practice tee and go spend more time in the practice field or in the field that we play, not on the practice range, not on this flat surface and a big old wide target.
Yeah. When you look at juniors with parents and your son is going to go play at Auburn.
Yeah,
so
proud of him.
You should be proud of him. He's a phenomenal kid. Should you look at that when you're teaching parents, you're teaching them as a teacher, but you're also teaching them as a parent who's been there.
Yeah. So You know, looking back, and especially as this time's going too fast with my own son Ryan as he heads off to college, but looking back, and I'm not saying I was perfect at this either, but I would look back and credit, have fun. Yeah. Go to these tournaments and enjoy the experience with your family, enjoy the sites that you get to go to, and keep it a really fun, enjoyable experience. Let the finishes kind of fall in where they want. And then, you know, I'll give a lot of credit to Coach Sewell at Alabama is he said at the end of a camp one year and said, let us slot the kids. You go have fun. Let us slot the kids because us coaches will get it right. You parents tend to slot your child higher than they need to be, and then that leads to frustrations, and then that leads to family anger and that cycle. So my deal is go enjoy it. If the more your son or daughter enjoys that experience of going to tournaments, highly likely they'll start playing better, and then the coaches will figure out how to slot that.
So I'm laughing as you're telling that story. So Saturday night, I'm down in Jacksonville with your good friend Todd Anderson, who we need to get on the podcast here soon. But
one of the best.
One of the best. And with Billy Horschel, one of my guys, one of the best. And so we're giving this talk, and Ryan comes up and talking. So afterwards, I talked to Ryan, and I've known Ryan since he was a pipsqueak.
Yeah, 10 maybe or less.
Yeah. And I look over, and they had set up pop-a shots and field goals and footballs. And I look over, and here's Ryan running out routes and throwing them. And I'm sitting there going, no ACL.
Yeah.
No, nothing.
Me too.
Yeah, I know.
Me too.
But he was up in the middle of it. And I told him, a good thing you're a golfer because that out route wasn't very.
Yeah, he's slow. He's got his dad's speed.
Yeah, he probably would have been a pretty good offensive tackle checking in as an eligible receiver style. He's not a big kid, but that's okay.
That's right.
Okay. But but it was fun, and I think, when you look at these juniors, and one of the things when I looked out of that audience, I was like, you could see the stress of some of the parents, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but they just want their kid to be successful. I get it. I understand. My kids both played junior golf, but you want them to be successful.
Sure.
But you forget the fact that it's a pretty cool place to sit and listen to a FedEx Cup champ, to be around a great setting like that and get to compete and get to be a part of something and get to experience that. I think sometimes as parents we forget that.
Yeah, and a big one I like to use, this is kind of an EE original that I've used with families and parents, though, is there's also a real component in golf of sport versus hobby. So a lot of times they want to tell me little Johnny wants to play college golf, but I tell them, well, little Johnny treats it like his hobby. So it's a seasonal deal that he really loves golf, and that is perfect. And he's going to be a really good player, but let's match sport versus hobby. So if this is your sport, you need to treat it a whole lot different than a hobby. So I'm good either way, but make sure we're matching those types of things. If you want it to be your sport, boy, there's a level of commitment. There's a level of time. There's a level of practice. Maybe more grand than any sport there is. Think about when you practice golf. That is an all-day affair out here, bashing balls or playing 18.
Yeah.
You can't go practice football or basketball for 8 hours.
Right.
So there's a real high commitment to this.
But I find that parents a lot of times when they say that, my kid wants to play college golf, they don't really know what that to be a college athlete is like. I mean, in our office we have Basham and we have Emma, who are both college athletes with me. And you were too.
Yeah, great pitcher, you yourself.
Well, I don't know about that, but he was all SEC. I wasn't anything. But the, when you look at that, you were a college athlete. Do people really understand what that sacrifice is? Because Kevin Mawai, who was on the podcast, who just got elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he said people come to him from the offensive line and say, my kid wants to play college. And he's like, but does he really know what the sacrifice is?
Yeah.
Pretty much give away your Thanksgivings and your Christmases.
That's right.
Give away your summers, because this is a job once you sign that letter of intent.
No question.
How can we educate our parents better? Because they forget in golf, they get 4.5 scholarships. I don't know what the women's is, maybe 6, but it's still not enough to really field a team. So everybody's on a partial. It's a partial scholarship sport. How can you educate parents and coaches that are listening to this who don't have the number of players that you have in college or haven't played? How do they educate them on that?
Yeah, so one of the greatest stories I've heard with college golf, I learned a long time ago, and their house is right there. Their son, Grant Rayfield, went and played college golf at the University of Richmond, which he otherwise probably wouldn't have gotten into. So he got a 4-year degree, ended up being captain of the golf team, and a degree from the University of Richmond, on to get a graduate degree after that through golf. So he was able to get enrolled in that school because of his golf acumen. So if you could use the game of golf to get into a school that you would otherwise not be eligible for, boy, there's a winner. And then the other thing that's a winner is just match similar to the sport versus hobby type deal. But if you are planning to be a PGA Tour player, if you've worked, you've dreamed, you're winning AJGA tournaments, you're top 5ing here, you're winning, you're doing all those things, and you have the goals to be a PGA Tour player, well, then you should go to schools where the 10 or 12 kids on that team all want to plan to be PGA Tour players. If you really love the game, want to play college golf, but you know you're going to be an attorney, you're going to follow your dad's steps to be a doctor, you don't need to go to those places. You could play at a smaller school, get a heck of a degree, travel the country, and that's where I see we're probably missing things sometimes is I would like to see you match your education, the education you want, and the level of golf you want. And sometimes that gets out of balance too, is I also know kids that have incredible GPAs, incredible ACTs, and they could use that to go to a really, really good school that's not maybe quite so high golf related, high golf acumen. But I like seeing those two things balanced.
Because you can still turn pro from anywhere.
Exactly. Look at the PGA Tour website. I mean, we certainly know, I've played against them all my life growing up, the Oklahoma State kids of the world. But look on the PGA Tour, there's a whole lot of little logos that from Wofford's of universities that they can play too. So, you just don't know who's going to pop out. There's some obvious ones, but there's a whole bunch of guys on the PGA Tour that aren't obvious. We just had
So I'm going to ask you this question. You've taught players from Graeme McDowell, Trey Mullinax, Tom Lovely. You taught them all. Condoleezza Rice. I mean, you are around people. And the way that you handle things is always so professional. So I'm going to ask you this question because I'm going to ask it in a way. We always ask people, what would you tell young coaches? Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you, what would you tell them not to do? Give me 2 or 3 things, because I know you'll pitch it in a way that doesn't sound callous or mistake-ridden. But what would you tell them to not do?
Young coaches?
Yeah, as they're moving in their career. Like, listen, these are some pitfalls that probably no one's ever going to have the guts to tell you. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you. I've been there. I've seen it. I've experienced it. Avoid these things.
Yeah. Well, the number one thing I would tell them is you have to become kind of Mayo trained. You have a PhD. You better get around somewhere where you can make your skill the top of your profession. So if you can't do that, you're kind of selling snake oil, you might say. Okay,
so go search people out.
Search people out. Grow your education. So the product you put on somebody, as far as golf instruction goes, it better be really good. It better be really sound. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of that where I don't see mentoring these days. Yeah. I was mentored by the best. Phil Rogers is one of my mentors. He taught Jack Nicklaus. He resurrected Nicklaus's career in the 80s. I spent hundreds of hours listening to Phil teach, listening to Fred Griffin, a perennial top 100 instructor, teach, listening to biomechanics specialists, going to TPI. So get your accreditations, get your knowledge, build your education base so you can do it the right way. And so many people with YouTubes and Instagrams and all those things, you study, you hear a tip, and then that's your style. No, you got to create your own, and you have to learn how to be kind of Mayo trained in your profession, in my case in golf instruction. So I spent 10 years just trying to learn to make sure I was doing and teaching the right thing. So that's the first thing I would say. And then part of that is then from there you've picked a little bit from each person. So you find all these nuggets, all these chocolate chip cookies, and all of a sudden you've got a whole barrel full of them, a whole cookie jar full of them. And
what are the mistakes that people make, though? I mean, do they just get married to their one system?
Yeah. I think some of those mistakes are trying to teach everybody the same golf swing. You have a system or a methodology. That'd be like having a shoe store that only sells 9.5s. Everybody who comes in, if you get some 9.5s, that works, but you've destroyed the others. So I would tell you to not be a methodology instructor. Teach to the individual. Claude Harmon once was said, sitting at Seminole locker room, somebody sat down next to him, and it was 2 members, and they'd had a lesson from Claude that morning, and the one was told the exact opposite as the other. Well, those are 2 individuals, and they asked about that, and Claude said, well, he's a different person than him. So he taught them that way. Butch Harmon to this day still teaches that way. So I think you have to not teach everybody the exact same way, not get stuck in a methodology that everybody needs to put the club here or pivot a certain way. Individuality in the game of golf is wonderful. Find what strengths are in those individuals and build off those strengths.
from a developmental standpoint, we see so many coaches and teachers within the golf game. They come out and boom, they have a platform immediately, and it's the chase of to teach this person, to teach that person. And yet we go back to what really resonated when you started this was the junior program, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, tour players are great. I mean, I'm fortunate I teach a bunch. You've taught a bunch. You still teach some. You know, you've got players across the world that you teach, but you're not out there all the time.
Yeah, I like going to bed in my own house.
Yeah.
I like hanging out here at Birmingham.
And you don't
Country Club.
apologize for that.
No. I still get my time and whatnot with the great players, and I can back that, you know, I can justify that I can teach with the finest of them, sat on the tees at major championships with many of them. But then at the end of the day, I like coming back here to Birmingham Country Club and teaching the members and being at home at night with my family and whatnot. And I just grew up in golf instruction in an era where it wasn't real self-promoting.
Yeah.
And nowadays it is all about
Does that bother you, though?
Yeah, it does. Sure. Well, no, I let it go because I'm just going to stay on my way. And it's kind of funny that this award would come around to, you know, I will brag that I'm probably the least self-promoting guy you could ever meet. So I just kind of go about my business here quietly at Birmingham Country Club. And, you know, I and we churn out tons of great players, and they come. And, you know, someday I heard one time they said, boy, there's great players out in Gastonia, North Carolina. All these great players came out. And Coach Kleinert said, yeah, there's a club professional that was up there for years that just used to churn out players. And I think that's one of the things that someday will be said about me is, man, he just used to churn out good junior golfers that came out of Birmingham because of the program they had at Birmingham Country Club. So, you know, I think in our profession we've gotten where the instructor takes a whole lot of credit.
Yeah.
And I would like to go back to the Jack Grout days where Nicholas got all the credit.
I agree with that.
You know, one of my teaching philosophies that I've simplified over the years is my students win. So my students are always holding trophies. They win state AMs, they win state seniors, they win state mid-AMs, they win the juniors, whatnot. So my students, whatever I teach them, whatever that is, it allows them to go perform well and win golf tournaments or enjoy the game of golf. Whereas there's a whole bunch of stuff out there teaching, showing this, that, and the other, but I never really see those guys
win.
Yeah. Or do all that well. You know, I see a lot of posting, but I'm like, well, you know, I've never really seen that kid ever play that good, or that person. He's not what I would say is a role model of a tour player.
I was having lunch and drinks one day with a golf professional out of Kentucky, Jeff Pierce. Jeff is a putting guru on the tour, and he's outspoken, so every once in a while he'll step in on social media. We were talking one day. He gets on a roll on social media because he's always like, I taught a guy today, but I didn't post the swing. Did it really happen? You know, from the stance of we want to be so self-promoting, and it was something that I always struggled with early in my career is I would see people posting that they worked with so-and-so or they've been around. Then I would talk to the player, and they're like, I think I met with them one time.
Right. There's so much of that in our industry, and, you know, it's hard when you're sitting in our seats. Do you want to dive into that pool, and do you want to have to post it? I don't want to do that. I don't want that labor at night that while I'm teaching that student, I've got to think about what I need to post about him tonight, or let me get footage of him so I need to post. There's a part of that in the game. If my students play well, if I'm at a major with them, if I don't, I'm going to be going backwards. So you have to have a little bit in there, but I certainly minimize that.
When you look at professionals that you've taught, I mean, you we're near UAB, but you've had other pros that you've worked with and juniors. I'm going to go back to Graeme McDowell for a minute. You know, you've maintained a really strong relationship there. Give me some insight. I'm not going to answer it, but give me some insight to our listeners of what you have seen his excellence about.
So great. You know, without keeping a long story short, but we had a wonderful relationship all his years at UAB and then his first couple of years as a pro until distance had us too far apart where I said, you need to find somebody over there. And still dear friends to this day, which is another thing that pros need to learn is it's 100%. Not ugly divorces. You can still be friends. You can still keep, you know, it doesn't have to be these ugly breakups with your students or your teachers. So, but the thing that was amazing to me about Graeme, and I saw it, he ended up winning the Haskins Award, the Heisman Trophy of college golf. He won 5 times his senior year. But the brighter the lights, the hotter the intensity, the better Graeme got. So then he turns pro. It was never a surprise to me that he won a U.S. Open. It was never a surprise to me that he makes the winning putt to win the Ryder Cup, which is the most pressure ever for an Irish guy to pull off. the bigger the stakes, the better Graeme McDowell was. And you don't see that in everybody. You know, they can say it, but Graeme could flat out back that. And that's
what
pretty
made him,
special.
From a swing standpoint, what made him special? Because he doesn't fit the modern era.
Yeah.
You know, he's not 6'3". He's not, you know, washboard abs. Not that we're picking on you, Graeme, but we're picking on you a little bit, brother.
Yeah, he's talking to ones that aren't. There's 3 of us now that don't have washboards.
Right. So, what is it from your perspective that made him so special?
Yeah, and you know, in his day, he was an incredible putter of the golf ball. He understands his putting inside and out. And everybody's going to go to, you know, Graham's a little bit of a shut-faced player. Well, so is Tom Watson. So is Dustin Johnson. So, you know, that's, once again, find the good, find the positive in somebody. Graeme was always a shut-faced player, which some of our best ball strikers to this day are shut-faced players. So
you're dealing with members, just like here, who were very, very successful where they are. And you're around that all the day, and you start thinking, I want a little piece of that. And I'm young. How do you slow that down? Yeah,
we talk with ours. I feel like I've got as fine a staff of assistant professionals as anywhere in the country. Really special young men and ladies. And we talk about creating an environment around here, a family and a team that all work together. But then on top of it is just you got to stay patient. Because being number 2, 3, 4, even 5 at a great facility that looks great on your resume is a lot better than being at number 1, to jump to number 1 at a facility where that spot will never hire you back to one of the elite spots. So you should stay in if you really want to be a great golfer. This is a hard business. You work weekends, you work holidays, you don't get much pay. You know, if you're married, it's even harder because of those 2 reasons. But if you love the game and you really want to do it right, stay at the premier places. Get your experience up and be patient for the good jobs to come up and stair step it. Don't necessarily, you might go from the 3rd assistant to the 1st assistant to a head professional underneath a director of golf. Take your time getting there. I was always I've got very fortunate, but I was always kind of pushing that envelope. I was on the 9th rung. I always had to get to the 10th rung. So I inevitably jumped too soon a couple times. It all worked. It was great, but I was in a hurry for those jobs. Nowadays, I tell kids, don't rush this. Don't hurry. Wait for the good jobs because they're coming.
How much do you have your members mentor your staff?
Yeah, a lot. You know, so we play over 300 rounds of golf a year.
So you guys play
all the time.
See, I think golf professionals should be on the golf course every weekend.
Yeah, we are.
I don't think you. Listen. If you're listening to this, it's not a knock at anybody. Get out and play with your member. As a member, members love it.
Yeah. Oh,
it's like seeing your teacher into the mall. It's like you see them from a different perspective.
That's right.
And to get out there and play with them, I think, is really wonderful.
How about golf trips? I mean, we do golf. Yeah. We do tons of golf trips too. But yeah, we play. It's on our guys' schedule. This is a play day. It's their job that day. Their job is to show up and play, and that's a pet peeve. You know, I can get up and on my soapbox and really get going on this. But golf is an outdoor sport. Golf professionals need to be outdoors.
Yeah.
So we've run into kind of safe harbors where we think being a golf professional sitting in an office and returning emails, that's not my world.
I had somebody tell me a long time ago, if they don't have a suntan, they're not out enough.
Yeah, I call them I guess I've been coined with this, but I call them air conditioning pros.
Yeah.
I don't want any air conditioning pros on our staff.
And I understand pros say, I don't want them to see me as, you know, I got to be better than that. My game's not very good. I'm like, members don't care. They want the camaraderie. They want just a little insight. You know, people took a lot of heat or sent a lot of heat Jim Furyk's way in a pro-am when he said, I tell my players, you're not that good.
Yeah.
But he's right. Like, enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
And it's when a pro plays, it's like, enjoy it.
Yeah. You know, everybody in our staff's good players. At one point, we were better players than we are now. But all my staff can shoot 75 or better when they go out and play a round of golf. If they shoot 82
you
on
want
a
to play
bad
money
day,
games?
Well, we play small stakes out here. So they're in. But yeah, we're in small stakes. You bet, we're in every bet. Yeah. So yeah, we do that, and I want them playing. And once again, it's just healthy. If that member spends 4 hours with my assistant professional. At the end of that 4 hours, those two have a special deal that never goes away.
Correct. Talk about the golf trip thing because, I think the golf trip idea is a brilliant idea, particularly for a club with resources like here. I mean, you guys have resources, and your membership has resources. But even if you're a member of a club that is the old joke of a club in the country. Let's say maybe doesn't have the resources. You guys have access to ways to make things special, but it takes time away from your family. That you don't get paid extra for that. Right?
No. But once again, if you take 7 members and go on a golf trip with them, if you drive down 280 and go to Lake Martin for a day with them to a neat place like Willow Point, and you come back, you have a bond with those 7 guys. And I can attest those 3 guys, whoever it is, you have been in the fire with a guy. And this wonderful part about golf is it's such a humbling, it teaches humility. And if you and I go play around the golf, we're kind of friends because of that. You embarrassed yourself a couple times. I embarrassed myself a couple times. But, at the end of the day, I respected how you went about your game of golf. And that respect is much more than you can get just, kind of folding shirts or returning emails.
One of the things that I've seen with pros when they do go is sometimes they're afraid to be human.
Yeah.
Even in the dinner. Drinking wine or having a drink. How do you teach your pros that? Because you never want to, my dad used to always say, if you want to go to a dinner party and you want to be around your clients, have a drink first and then switch it to something people don't know you're not drinking. Mm-hmm. So he used to always say drink club soda and lime because he's like, they don't know that it looks.
I've seen you do that.
Yeah. I'll have one drink first just to relax, so that usually I'm up there with a guest or somebody who knows I'm ordering a drink.
Yeah.
And then I'll switch it after that, and I'll tell the bartender, please make sure, because I never want to say anything. I don't want to be that guy. Mm-hmm. But that way it looks like you're still part of it. Mm-hmm. And there's got to be some of those unwritten things that you teach your pros that.
Yeah, and a lot of that also comes in hiring. If you go back one step, you have to hire real people. Real down-to-earth, real people that aren't faking it. So my guys are real, and they know how to, you can have a couple beers and still be yourself.
And not worry about
it, but understand you're not going to have 6 beers, and you're not going to act a fool, and they know that. But, that's just be yourself, be natural. There's a lot of, just like anything, I don't want my pros to ever turn the switch on when members come in. I want them being real
who they are.
Because if you're not, I learned that. I watch people. That's another learning experience. I watch people turn that switch on and off. That's no good because you're going to get caught with the switch off. So just be yourself. Be normal. Be yourself and be down to earth.
Do you think with clubs today, this is a club that's very esteemed, but, you go to, like, the Discovery Land Group has done an amazing job of being really relaxed.
Yeah.
Hell, you wear what you want on the golf course. Mm-hmm. Do you think we're going that way, or do you think people still want the formal?
Yeah, what I always say is it's per place. There's cultures at all those places. Who doesn't love going to a Discovery Land property? I do.
Right.
The snack stations, the music on the range, the omelets on the first tee, the massages and the chairs.
Right. And it's not a 5-hour round. It may be an 8-hour round, but you're having a good time.
And when those places are opening up, they come back to me and go, man, I went to here and we did this, and they had massages going on in the range and whatnot. And my joke was, well, first of all, they do that 3 months a year, 5 months a year. We're doing it 12. And, those things work great there. And then things work great here. And there's some of those traditions here that wouldn't work. Some of our traditions wouldn't work at one of those facilities, and those traditions don't necessarily work at ours. But that makes them special. So I just, once again, try to be yourself. Know what you are, know what your culture is, understand your product, your platform, and then maximize the heck out of that.
Do you guys have any big events coming? You guys hosted the Mid-Am.
Yeah.
You hosted, what else have y'all hosted here?
We hosted the state team. And then we hosted the Mid-Am and the state team, and now we are awarded, which is going to be pretty exciting. We're going to host our 3rd in a decade, but we're hosting the 2022 USGA 4-ball.
Oh, super.
So we've got it coming, and this club is really storied in amateur golf.
Yeah.
They haven't really ever dove in too much into professional golf. And the USGA has kind of fallen in love with 36 holes under one roof and our membership and our people, and 2 incredibly good golf courses to
because the
to
East
play.
course, the West is the famous one, but not a lot of people give a lot of attention to East. But it's
really good.
It's really good.
If it sat on its own, it would be an incredible golf course. It just has Big Brother next door. That's a double incredible golf course. So
give our listeners the background of Country Club of Birmingham.
Yeah, so established in 1898 as an equestrian club downtown.
So it was established downtown.
Yeah, over the mountain, as they say here in Birmingham. Then in 1920s, they
moved out to the country.
Yeah, they moved out to the country, which was pasture and dairy land right here, and started buying up 300-some acres and had the foresight to put in 36 holes. We were only the 5th club in America at the time to put 36 holes in. So very visionary of the founding fathers to put in 36 holes.
Yeah.
And so that started in 1928 on this current location. In the early 30s, it made it through the Depression. Early 30s, they built the clubhouse, and it's been a thriving club ever since.
You were, and I'm going to tease when I say this, I'm looking, I think you're wearing it, but you're part of the Peter Millar crew. Okay, when I joke, I told you that one night. You get a bunch of club professionals, elite professionals from around the country together, and you have a retreat.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that, because not to out what you guys talk about, but you see it in the insurance industry, you see it in other industries, we'll call them millionaire clubs or top tier presidents clubs, but it's self-driven. It's not like you've won the award. And this year you brought a bunch of people into Shoal Creek.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to come up and speak at. How did that start? What's the push? I call it the Peter Millar Club because if you look at the list, most of them are like ambassadors of Peter Millar. Ralph. I don't know what you got. Y'all are, right?
It is. Yeah, Peter Millar is a valued partner to all of us, but it's not necessarily a Peter Millar club. Yeah, but that's okay. That's all right. Yeah, that's right.
Joke.
We could be called that.
Johnny O, don't worry. Ralph Lauren, he's selling it all up there.
So I've been very fortunate to be on the Titleist Council. It's like 8 professionals in the country. Well, that group we had you speak to is a group of a little over 30 club professionals at the very finest clubs you can name or mention. And we get together once a year, plus uncountless
By the way, I'm going
dialogue.
to tell you how you know they're elite professionals when you go to the website and it's one very small picture and it just says member only.
Yeah.
In other words, there's no information on it other than it's funny. That's how it's not a massive, massive deal.
No, and this is from, Shinnecock to Marion to the West Coast. You pick them. So great guys, unbelievable resource for me, who's always kind of been on the teaching and playing and coaching side of the business. When I transformed into a director of golf role, which I still am only really good at the teaching and playing and coaching side. As a director of golf, I do love leading the team and whatnot, but I ask a lot of questions. I'm not as good in those roles. I'm around guys in that group that are incredible head professionals and directors of golf, and I learn a ton from those kind of well-rounded, maybe all-around golf pros. I cherish those guys. So we've done that meeting at Pebble Beach and, all these great places. So when we told them Eric Williamson and I wanted to host it in Birmingham, they kind of laughed us off and said, well, we go to all these fancy places. Mm-hmm. Well, we set a new standard in Birmingham to spend a couple nights at Shoal Creek and a couple days here at Birmingham Country Club. It was a big home run, home run. They left saying – the email actually went out saying we're going to Casa de Campo. But we got a hard time topping.
Do you need another speaker for next
year? We might. Topping the Birmingham bar. Right. Yeah, and you speaking, and it was pretty cool.
I'll go to Casa de Campo. Come on.
I have not been, so good stuff. Yeah. But once again, that what I talked about earlier as we're talking is that striving to make yourself better, learning, getting better, making your trade the best you can be, that never stops. Never stop. So I'm always, every day I'm trying to get a little better as a coach, a little better as a teacher, a little better as a husband, a little better as a father, and a little better as a golf professional. So that's life, isn't it?
Well, congratulations on the 2019 Golf Professional of the Year. It's well-deserved.
Thank you.
If you want more on Eric Eshleman, how can they find you?
Yeah, easiest is my email, which is Eshleman, EESHLEMAN, at ccbham.com.
Okay, sounds good. And make sure you send him a message. If you like it, follow it. You'll see all kinds. The thing about Eric is he's what many of you want to become. And I mean that from respect. I mean that from honor. I mean that from trusting him, knowing how he treats people. Never says a curse word or bad word about anybody outside of him. He never talks bad about people. He builds up his students. His students love him. His staff loves him. His membership loves him. And if you walk around, and I'm serious when I say this, I'm not knocking anyone else by saying this, but if you look at role model for PGA Professional, you're the guy.
Thanks so much. Thanks for our friendship.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on your podcast. I respect you so much. It's a mutual admiration society here, but we'll leave it at that. And I'm honored to.
I've never played Birmingham.
Let's fix that.
It's not. People always say, I've only played Shoal once. I live across the street. Well, soon to be living there, but I've never played Birmingham.
Well, we'll fix it.
I know, and let's
fix it this fall.
Yeah, you've told me like 50 times, but it's always like, I got my group I play with at my course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we'll have to do that.
We're going to do it this fall. Mark never has either, so I got to get you and Mark out
here.
Yeah,
but you guys don't let people like him out here.
With those accents.
Yeah.
Angry Englishmen.
Angry British men. I'm just joking, Mark Blackburn. We'll bring him out here. He's actually sneaky good.
I know. No, I know that. He's a great player. Great player. Yeah, I know. He can do it too.
I know. No, Mark, we'll have you out here. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.